Hello, YouTubers. Charles Holler. I'm back. Well, man, oh man, I almost feel a little bit of what Daniel felt there when he waited the 21 days. I have been in internet exile, 21 days. I tell you, I have two important subjects I want to talk about today. One really accents the other, but let me go ahead and proceed with this for a little bit. Just a little miracle that the Lord's done in my life, in which I should have seen a battle coming. And it has really been a battle. I could have an entire video just telling you about what has happened with the internet here. Is they accidentally canceled my service, and then they accidentally did this and accidentally did that, and unbelievable. So anyway, I recently relocated. Now don't get all alarmed and think that I relocated because there's some natural disaster coming. Although a storm is coming, we know that. Hey, just having a little fun with you folks. There is a storm coming. Now, for 20 years, my family's been involved in trying to recover some assets that were willed to them by another party. And even a judge a few months ago called it an ancient case. And really, they thought that there would be quite a bit of funds coming. And of course, I thought the timing was supernatural. And at some point in time, my mother, who is 77, my aunt Elizabeth, 78, my aunt Betty is 91. We call them the Golden girls. They all live in a home. My aunt Elizabeth is the homeowner. And we had talked about if enough of the funds had been released that we were going to buy a small house out in the country someplace. You know, I live in the Midwest, is where we live, and 150,000 you can get a nice little 3-4 bedroom ranch 20 miles from town or whatever. Anyway, that did not happen. So they asked if there were some funds, we could do some repairs, would I come live with them? And I thought, okay, but I needed to hear from the Lord. And it was just a month away from September, and it was like, Lord, excuse me folks, if it's your will that I move here, let me know so I can take care of that. If it's not your will, don't let me get preoccupied with moving when I can be about your business. And so in my 30 years of trying to live a sanctified life for the Lord, I put out probably less than a half a dozen fleeces. And I felt this was a time to do that. So I picked up my Bible and I flipped it around. I was like, Lord, just give me a word. Do I move? Do I not move with my mother and Elizabeth and Betty? And the Bible, it opens up to Luke 1, 22nd verse. It says, and when the time of his ministries were done, he went into his own house. He says, well, Lord, that doesn't tell me anything. I'm in my own house now. And I'm asking if I'm supposed to move to their house. And I heard that small voice say, continue. And the next verse basically lets everybody know that this is the house where Elizabeth lives. Named her by name. Well, you don't have to hit me in the head twice. So I knew it was the Lord's will for me to move here. Like I said, don't freak out that I have moved someplace because of because I'm in the same town, just on the other end of town. So the neighborhood's not quite as good, and I think it's going to do well for a man to be living in the home, what have you. So anyway, let's move on to what I want to talk about today, folks. I want to share that miracle with you, though, of course, today. Now, first of all, I want to talk about, it's September 4th. We're right in the midst of it, folks. 9 days away from the end of the Shemitah, 19 days away from Atonement, September 23rd, the last Jubilee. And I want to address the Jubilee because this is important, folks, that we don't get sidetracked. There's a lot of voices out there saying that, the Jubilee is 2000 and this and 2024, that it doesn't start until Nissan 1, and come on, folks. we should be beyond this. Let's not try to throw a wrench in when people are looking for the truth here. Now, nowhere in the scripture does it say that when you blow the trumpet on atonement that you have to wait until Nisan 1 for the year of Jubilee to start. People said, well, it was so they could have a 6-month warning. They didn't need a warning. Come on, they just finished a Shemitah year. Why would they need a 6-month warning? It doesn't say that, folks. You know, there are two calendars. There's a civil calendar and there's another calendar. So, but it also doesn't say that it starts on atonement either. It just says blow the trumpet on atonement. So what we have to look at is what has happened in the past. So let's go, we track it back to the last potential Jubilee year, and this is in 1967, June 7th. Now when you look at the calendar days, you can see that, well, either way, whether it started in atonement or the following Nisan, it still would have been the 6-day war, would have been in a Jubilee year. Let's back up to the next one. Now this one is the one that shows you that it was in 1917. Two events happened. The Balfour Agreement was in November of 1917. This was just 2 months after the Shemitah or the Jubilee would have started on atonement. If you would have waited to Nisan, it wouldn't have happened, folks. Also, General Allenby walked in, didn't fire a shot. This was a miracle. The Muslims just put everything down. They walked away. This was December 3rd, 1917. Some people out there want to say it was 1918. It was not. It was 1917. So, folks, this shows, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that those two events of restoration, Jonathan Cahn is not wrong. He is right. So, let's get rid of that. The next thing I want to talk about, folks, now listen, when we read a book, it's human nature. You come across a word you don't understand, you just kind of glaze over it, and the conversation picks up a little bit later. You didn't even pay attention to it because you know, that happens with conversations also. If somebody talks about something that maybe you don't understand, but just one sentence later in the conversation you do understand, so you kind of just glaze over it. Folks, I'm going to talk about something. Please do not glaze over this. This is important. This is the whole key, the whole ball of wax that shows why September 23rd is the first day of Daniel's 70th week. It's the first day of the tribulation period, according to the scriptures. This is not something somebody made up, folks. Rerun this video. Take notes. Do not glaze over what I'm trying to get you to understand. Say hi, Harrison. Wave your hands. That's my nephew. He's visiting. So, anyway, we all know that Daniel talked about the 62, the 7, and the 1. But the first time this was fulfilled, the 62 and the 7 were combined. 69 weeks. From the time that the commandment went forth to rebuild Jerusalem, and when you go to 44 BC, I believe it was March 10th, and you count forward 69 times 7, these are years of weeks, that's 434 years. Multiply that by 360 days in a year, you come out to the exact day Jesus rode in to Jerusalem on a donkey. This is why he was so sad that day. He goes, the scriptures told you I was coming today. Today I was coming. You knew I was coming today. Why did you not receive me? It made him very sad. Now, a lot of the pre-wrath people, and I almost fell for this, folks. I got to just deviate a little bit. Boy, I'm probably going to have to go with a part 2 today. But let me just say this. I started seeking the Lord that, okay, if the Lord was coming twice, could Daniel be fulfilled twice? Absolutely, yes. Why not? So is there another command to rebuild? And yes, there was. Only this time, he breaks it down into the 62, the 7, and the 1. Now we understand The first time it was combined. Now, a lot of people want to say that that 70th week and the Messiah would be cut off in the midst of the week. And yes, he was. But there's a dual fulfillment. See, the Messiah is a gentleman. He didn't need his entire 7 weeks to prove that love would conquer, that in the fullness of time, a people without seeing would believe. But the Antichrist is not this same person. The Antichrist wants his whole 7 years. So he's going to get his 70th week. It's 2 different timelines, folks. Yes, even if the Messiah was cut off in the first half, okay, the enemy is not going to be cut off in this second half. So, in the Ottoman Empire, they gave a commandment to rebuild Jerusalem August 20th, 1539 BC. And when you count forward 62, because we got the 62, the 7, and the 1, 62 times 7, each one number has 7 years in it. That's 434 times 360 days. It comes exactly to June 7th, 1967. This is the day Israel, through the exact same gate, the Lion's Gate, that was ordered to be rebuilt in 1539, they actually went into this gate and they conquered it that day. And that was the last day of the 62 that Daniel talked about. But like a Jubilee year, it also counts as number 1 day for the 7. And this we all know because of Newton's riddle. My good buddy, Neil Russell, front page of Charisma magazine this month. Prophecy in the News, 2 episodes back to back. God's perfect timing. I called him up and told him about this revelation. He said, Chuck, I got goosebumps all over. He goes, this is what the second show is about. So let me tell you, folks, we got 3 minutes. Pay attention. Don't glaze over. If the last day of the 62-day count is June 7th, and that's the first day of the 7 count, it comes to September 23rd. That's 7 times 7, 49 years times 360 days. It comes to September 23rd, 2015. If the last count of the 62 was the first count of the 7, then the last count of the 7 is the first day of the 1. The last week, the 70th week, the last 7 years. Daniel's 70th week, the time of Jacob's trouble, the great tribulation. Well, the whole tribulation, not just the great. It's the whole 7 years, the whole ball of wax. Why wouldn't the Pope be in to meet the other beast on that day? We're going to see something happen that day. The Antichrist could only do miracles in the presence of the false prophet. What are we going to see that day? I don't know. Here's something that's just emerging, and I don't think anybody has put this together yet, but their high priestess, Madonna, is preparing their way with her satanic rituals. Do you know that her Rebel Heart tour that starts in North America starts in Washington, D.C. this month, and the theme is Desecration of the Bride, Return of the Fallen Angels. And then as soon as she leaves Washington, D.C., the Pope comes, and she goes to New York. And when she leaves New York, the Pope goes to New York. And when she leaves there, she goes to Philadelphia, then the Pope goes to Philadelphia. It's almost that her satanic rituals are preparing the way for the false prophet. And I just happened to flip the channels this week, and I saw her give a little preview on the Ellen DeGenerate show. And oh my goodness, folks, we're in trouble. Hey, I've got 1 minute left. Pray for the lady in Kentucky who had the gumption to stand up for her beliefs, because this is the new Baal. You will either bow or you will not. You will choose you this day who you're going to serve. This whole homosexual thing is Revelation 6:2, and the beast, and he went forth to conquer, and conquering with a bow. That bow is that rainbow that's their banner, that's their flag. This is the thing they're going to use to come after the Christians. 4 of the Supreme Court justices who did not vote all wrote an opinion, and that is unheard of, that each one of those would write an opinion, and in their opinion they all said the end game will be persecution of Christians, the Christian church. Folks, it's coming. I don't know what else is coming, but I don't have to re-educate you. My videos tell you what's coming. Economic collapse is coming. If you don't know Jesus, you better reach out and believe in Him. Tell somebody about it. Accept Him. If you are a Christian, please get your life in order. Forgive anybody of any debts, because it is a Shemitah. You're required to do that. Forgive anybody of any wrongdoings. Seek the Lord, because that's the only preparation that counts. The storm is coming, folks. God bless.